into a great big castle. Billy Joe shot there while on his castle. Run suit, took the money and run. Go on, take 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 the money and run. Billy Mack is a detective down in Texas. No, he knows just exactly what the facts is. He ain't gonna let folks to escape justice. He makes his living off the road, he pays taxes. My suit, whoa, she slipped away. Billy Joe caught up to the very next day. They got the money, hey, you know they got away. They're headed down south and they're still running today. Saying, go on, take money and run.
All right, so I'm now recording, and I missed my nice. I thought I had some good stuff there, and those that are gonna rewatch are gonna miss that. That's okay. So opportunity is your digital whiteboard, right? Knowing when you create an opportunity. Well, a lot of people will go in and not create an opportunity until they have somebody under contract, and I think if you do that, you're missing, for lack of a better term, the opportunity. So when you have a substantive conversation with somebody about real estate, even prior to actually maybe sitting down and having an appointment with them, we call that cultivation of that relationship. They may be 12, 18, 24 months out to buying something. But if you've actually had a relationship conversation with them, then I encourage you to create what we call an opportunity and put them in earlier in the pipeline rather than waiting to just do checklist of items. Is like, okay, I'm active contract now. I got to get stuff into my broker. And so now I'm in the active phase. Especially for those of you that are on teams or run teams, it gives you great insight as you move people along. Plus, because the limitations of the whiteboard in your office, you weren't always able to do all that, right? For those of you that are doing well, right? Those of you that are new to the business, but like, I met somebody, I gotta get them on the board. So think about, okay, I'm now having conversations, and there are things that you do every day or every week for those people to advance them along. So that's cultivation. Cultivate, have an appointment, actively work with them, under contract and close. We're gonna talk about those 5 phases. Then inside of each of those phases, for those of you that have been around a little while, and I will encourage those of you that are new to talk to your PC coaches about this, what do you do? How do you move them along? What are the things that you do when somebody says, okay, I'm going to work with you? And I'm not just talking about what contracts get written, but like, what do you do in your business? What happens when you get an active buyer or somebody's thinking about working with you? You set them up on safe searches. Do you get them under an active buyer broker agreement? If you take a listing, what are the steps, right? I have to put a sign in the yard. Maybe I call this utility. I have to call photography. I have to get videography in place. There are a lot of things that you do that you will do, right? As you work through it. Maybe it's a checklist on your desktop, but you can build checklists in the system for you or your associates on your team that they can be time and date. They can move on. So you know that you've accomplished things and move on to the next step. So Command allows you to do that. There's even client updates in the platform. You think about client updates, and we all do this. When you accomplish something for one of your clients, what do? You send them an email. All right, so I scheduled Miss Utility to come out tomorrow. Principal photography is going to be on Friday. Stager's coming Wednesday, and boom, 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 boom. And you've got to recreate this email over and over and over. There's a trigger called client updates. And if you turn that on for an opportunity, you can have an email kick out once a day that updates your consumer with all the things that you did for them in that particular day. If those items are built out in your checklist, we'll talk about, see what that looks like. In order for that to work, and I always come back to these settings, you've got to make sure that your email is configured because it's got to have an email to send out. So that's that command email comes into play, that's what sends out those notifications along with the neighborhood nurture and the things that are tied to smart plans. So your digital whiteboard, opportunity details. So we talked about client updates. When you create an opportunity, we'll see here that we're going to go into what's the detail portion. So details are important. Dates, times, prices, estimation, what are things happening? And you're going to want to update those details inside the opportunity as you move along. And those opportunities, and this is not that class, but these opportunities and that detail information, when you set it, will sync to DocuSign if you're using DocuSign, right? So it has that ability to go and send it to the details inside of that platform, right? You have a seller profile that if they're engaging with you through their mobile app, and there's buyer guides, and we'll talk a little bit more about the consumer buyer guides next week, but you can check off stages that they'll see on their side. If you're on Teams, you can submit notes to just specific to the opportunity that people on the team will see. And all that activity is tracked on an opportunity timeline. So let's kind of log in here. So I'm going to bring up my command. Okay. Oh, and just to share, so those of you that didn't see my announcement or KW's announcement, there are new designs that are inside of designs. I just wanted you guys to know that there are Black History Month. There is a Super Bowl updates, and well, obviously Groundhog Day is in the rearview mirror, but KW does a pretty good job of getting things out there to us that are specific to certain holidays that or events that might be coming up outside of just regular drip campaigns. So just wanted to show you that that was there. Not to hijack this class and turn it into a designs class. So let me come back to the home page. All right. So opportunities, which we see right here, shaking hands. That's our opportunity, right? Now, opportunities can be created, and more times than not, will actually be created from a contact record. So we'll go back there, but I want to give you a walkthrough of what you actually see here on your opportunity page. I had mentioned the 5 phases. These are fixed for everybody. Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, then close. That all, and you see they're separated by listings, buyers, and leases. Leases have both types lobbed into one, right? Listing leases or representation of tenants. They're both under the leases category, but everything else is segmented across. And in each of those, you'll see volume or average time of the opportunities that are in each phase. And at the end of that column, we see GCI and we see probable income. Well, there are 2 things in play here. One, potential income, just like this, total commission of all opportunities. So the total sum amount of closed commissions that I would earn if everything in the listings pipeline closes is $55,000, okay? Probable income. Well, probable income really doesn't exist, right? You don't get commission unless it closes. You're either getting 0% or 100%, right? That's your potential income. But this is kind of gamifying a little bit for you, letting you know that there's a higher percentage that your deal will close every time you do something, every time you move them from stage to stage or phase to phase. That gets a little bit closer to you achieving that goal of 100%. So these 2 numbers will never truly match unless you have one deal that actually closes, right? Which you should always have more than that. But that's the difference. Potential income and probable income is that weighted percentage that you'll see in these stages that, hey, every time I put somebody in the cultivate phase, maybe I have a 10% chance of closing. Maybe it's 1, 3, or 5. Your numbers vary differently for each of you, okay? Then you get from cultivate to appointment to active. Maybe all 70% of my active listings close. Maybe that number's higher. When I get under contract, maybe that number escalates to 95% and close. That's 100%. So that's what scalability is here for tracking your income. At the bottom of this page, you see activity. Broken down, your ratios, right? You guys all need to know your numbers. If you don't know what your numbers truly mean to you, what we call lore, your language of real estate, highly encouraged to talk to your leadership and your PC coaches, right? Because they can help explain that in the value of you separating yourself as you build your businesses and become those local area experts. In the meantime, you can use the lore reports, the productivity numbers of the office as a whole when you're talking to your business, right? Because stuttering through. For all intents and purposes, we're one big team. So it is okay to talk about we and being in your market center. You're not alone on an island. So this activity down here will track the opportunities, and you can change it out by listings, buyers, tenant, or landlord. So there's just different ways to look at some reports that are on this screen. And then closings this month, that would be listed here at the bottom. Now, when you look at these, cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, okay, that is basically a month at a glance, or everything that's in the pipeline. Closed is the one that will change the most, because once I close something, we put it in here. However, what happens at the end of every month is that our market centers, right, they run the books, they close, right? We actually have like an end of year, but we call it end of month. We close our books every month. So your closings here don't compile on a 12-month basis. This is a what closed this month. And once the month has passed and closed, this number goes back to 0. And all of that closings are still there for you. They're just here under all opportunities. I think it's important to know, because I think a lot of times I'll get questions. Hey, I had closings, where are they? Well, they were probably there and then they've moved on because you're in a new month. All right. So under all opportunities, this functions very similarly. If you remember back to the contacts class that we had on Monday, it filters and smart views just like on contacts. So I can come in here, I can see everything that's going on, right? I can filter by close date. I can create filters, show me all my listings that closed. Okay, boom, you see they're all tagged as closed. And I can filter by date, I can filter by volume. Then under opportunities, right, I can create a smart view around this. Right, boom. So then you've got, there's just some different examples: listing under contract, my all opportunities, closed listings, right? You can create filters for yourself or for your team, because if you had a team, then you'd have another category here, if you were the rainmaker, where all the agents would be listed. The agents on team won't see information. Rainmaker sees everybody in their team if they're working in the team dynamic. So this is a great place. This essentially, what does this look like? When we start off talking about, what essentially does this look like? Anybody?
Nothing.
Doesn't look like a whiteboard?
It does, but the close date is based on the close date and not the funded date, right?
Close date is the date that I put in the system and said this transaction closed. Because when you move something to close, right, recording date, close date. So if my close of escrow date, like I'm going to closing tomorrow and I close tomorrow, that's the date that I put in the system.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now I can't customize what's showing up. That's one thing I can't do, is like, I don't have customizable columns for more details like I do on the contact page. This is what I have at this point in time, but I can filter up and down, right? And then I can change and create those. I can create those opportunities and filter those opportunities. So that's why I want to show you a couple different ways of how you're looking at things. This display board and this display board. And I know, and I'll call my friend Andy Stevens out, well, he wasn't aware of this, right? Andy, you got quite excited when I showed you this last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago when we talked. These are little things that are behind these closed doors that come through repetition and practice and looking at things and understanding how they can be leveraged and provide value in your business.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted there for a second.
That's all right. Did you take that whiteboard down?
No, not yet. I got to figure out how to set up the extra monitor here that we talked about.
All right. Right. Well, so that's the other thing, right? You could have a digital display. You could have a TV mounted on your wall to replace that, right? TVs are really cheap now, right? I've got a 3-monitor display, not a TV, but I'm not telling you to go out and spend money you don't have yet, but there's value in having some of these things. But I'd go buy something out of box at Best Buy. They always have something. All right. So now let's talk about, come back
Or you could just do a split screen, right? And do it that way.
Yeah, you can go split screen. Absolutely.
David, can I ask a quick question about at the top of the screen where you have your name? It says all opportunities and all discussions. Wonder if we have also a team name there. So I have coaching team A and then my name. And when you set up the opportunity, it should be under the team name.
Yes.
Right.
So when you're running a team, okay, you're as the rainmaker, I'm
not the rainmaker though. Okay.
As an individual agent, or even if you're on a team, you actually have a team account and a personal account.
Right.
That's why you see your name and the team. And you have the ability at this point, now you should not do this, but this conversation for you and you're on the Market Center team. If you create an opportunity under your name, then only you see it. The team does not see it. If you create an opportunity under the team profile, then your Rainmaker has insight into your business, and that's how things should be done.
Okay,
That's why you see different things, because you're on a team.
got it. So I have a buyer opportunity and I didn't put the team. So do I just have to delete that opportunity first and then redo it and make sure I put in the team name?
So you created an opportunity that's under your personal, it's not under the team. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And when I go in to edit it, I can't, it's a grayed out field. Like I can't edit the team. Like so I don't know how to get that updated.
You're breaking up, but let me try to summarize if I think that's where you're going, but then you can follow up with your Market Center tech trainer to get more specific support on this one if necessary.
Okay.
But when you're on a team and you create an opportunity as yourself and not under the team, you can't transfer the opportunity between a team or a person and the team. There's a firewall that's in play there, because some people will have had opportunities that they were on their own and then they joined a team, that they're outside the team, or they're on a team and then they leave and then they create things, but those opportunities belong to the team, not to the individual. So they don't transfer back and forth. So yes, if you need that opportunity to be underneath the team, then you need to create it under the team from scratch. Contacts can move back and forth, opportunities cannot.
Okay.
All right, so let's jump back to a contact card here. Because most of you will find that when you're creating an opportunity, you're probably coming from a contact record. So I'm just going to pull up one of my test accounts here. So from your contact record here, you'll see across on the right-hand side, you have an opportunity. So you probably were updating something. You might've been working on something. You can create opportunities here. So if you go to opportunities, if there one exists, they will be listed here. If you need to create one, then you can do that here. Create opportunity. You got, did they the pop-up show up for you guys?
Yes.
Perfect. So if you're in multiple market centers like I am, you'll have to change the market center. Very few of you are, so don't worry about that too much. Okay. Opportunity type. This is important, and we all make mistakes, and that's okay. And I know sometimes we don't turn in our paperwork or fill everything out until we're getting very, very close to close and we're in a rush. So if you identify with this person, I encourage you to create opportunities much, much sooner. It's good for you, good for your market center. Okay. But you need to change this opportunity type. And when I say people in a rush, is because you notice here when I created this, it defaults to listing. If you're representing a buyer or a landlord, you have to change that. Creating ops, can you create in the box of lead versus sales? Let me finish filling this out real quick and I'll come back to that question. All right, so listing. So you have to decide or tell the system what it is. If you follow through with creating this opportunity and it was meant to be a buyer and not a listing, you can't change it. You would have to archive it, delete it, and start anew. So that's important. That's why I spent a couple of seconds here kind of really defining that for you guys. You'll see that the opportunity name will default. When you're on a listing, this is no different to how things worked inside of .loop previously, that I recommend you naming the property, the opportunity name after the property address. If you're working with a buyer, you probably haven't identified a property yet, right? Let alone closed or ratified one. So I would recommend it's okay to leave it as their name -buyer. You can always come back and change it to the ratified property address. Makes it easier for your brokerage, your leadership to filter through and look for things when property addresses are assigned to the opportunity. So listings use the address, buyers use their name, and then remember to update it later by property address. You have the ability to have custom tags. These tags are not the same as the tags that you have in your contact tags, the opportunity tags. They may be similar, right? Or they may be subtly different. When you start to look at microdata, right? Where did all my opportunities come from? Not just where my contacts came from. It's good to update and know that, okay, if I got a Facebook lead, I only just get that contact, but that contact ended up becoming an opportunity and closed. So that was a Facebook lead. Or maybe, hey, it was a referral. So you should be specific and use tags in tracking your opportunities as well. It's good for you to know your business, right? That's that lore. Knowing conversion rates, knowing where things are coming from. Estimated closing date. All right, so when are they probably going to close on a house? Well, in this market, who knows if I can find them one, right? If it's a listing, I know that, hey, if I take listing today, we're going to close quick. What's the price? Commission rate. Be real with yourself. All right, if you're taking the listings, probably, I'm guessing a lot of you, you're still taking 3% listings or 6% where you're getting 3. So use your split, not the total. And then when it comes to, if I'm working with a buyer, be real to yourself, because if I put 3% in here, then my pipeline is going to tell me 3% times my commission of purchase price is going to be X. But if I know that the market is only getting me 2.5 to 275, then put the number in that you're most likely going to get when you go shopping for somebody. So that's just you being honest with yourself.
I have a question. When we work with a buyer, the estimate price.
Yeah. When you're working with a buyer, the estimated price would be either A, the conversation price of homes that you had a conversation around with them, and that would evolve once you have them qualified on a property, right? So you should be having conversations and know what their price might be. Hope that answered. You kind of dropped out on me there. Opportunities, right? So this ties back to that display on the opportunity board, on that opportunity dashboard. What you see is cultivate, appointment, and active. You don't see under contract or closed because you should never be entering things under contract or closed. So you always have to start in one of these sections. And I encourage you to get in the habit of starting from cultivate rather than starting and waiting to active. Right? That's better for you to track your business that way. Now, some people have asked me, hey, should everybody in my database be under cultivate? I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do think everybody you've had a substantive conversation with about doing something in real estate should be in that cultivate, right? That helps you identify conversions. I meet somebody in an open house this weekend, okay? They tell me they're a buyer. I may or may not cultivate them yet, right? If I followed up and I've created a conversation with them, where we talk maybe a second time, then I might add them to cultivate. Okay, I've got a fish on the line. I'm going to try to win them over to have an appointment or be an active buyer for me. So I'm going to cultivate that relationship. But if I just met them and I got them on a sign-in sheet, but I never hear from them again, I never really had a chance to cultivate that relationship. Does that make sense? Like, you guys see the difference there? These are really for you to be honest to yourself around. Right? Because there's no opportunity police that are going to come check and ask you and drill you in detail. Your PC coaches might ask you a little bit more. Your team leaders might ask you a little bit more. Your rainmaker is certainly going to ask you, right, how you're identifying people and where you're putting them.
Question, David.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of very new. Even I'm waiting for my license to get it next week, next 2 weeks maybe. Am I understanding correctly that, like you said, for that cultivate, I mean, it's kind of like when we have a substantive like client, when we're saying, okay, they are kind of like interested and we're going to do the signing the paper, which is as a client, which is we have that option, like we should be create that qualitative. If not, like you said, they are not coming or they're not going to sign, just like call or something word, we don't need to do that. It's kind of like that. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. And it's consistency in how you do it. Right? That's specific to you. So as long as you're consistent and saying, okay, everybody I move to cultivate are the people that I have actually had a conversation around about doing business together. We might not have met face-to-face or had an appointment yet, but we've talked and they've agreed that, yes, let's keep talking so you can help me find something.
Like an interested customer.
Exactly right.
Exactly. Okay, got
it.
Thank you.
Great question for clarity. Now, under that, so if I say I'm going to cultivate them, and we haven't looked at these yet, we're going to go back, you'll see that there are stages underneath each of these phases. There are stages. There are default stages that are provided for you by KWRI. You can customize your stages. Like, so what you see here may vary from what you see on my screen, because I started to play around with things a little bit. So of course this says retie, and it should say retry. So there's spelling issues. That's just something I have dealt with for the years. Just met, watch, nurture. I put these numbers in here just to kind of define what it means if I'm watching, if they're watching, or if they're nurturing, or where are they at in these different stages. Again, interested buyers, what they tell me, we're 12 months out. Okay, then I'm watching, we're talking, but we're watching. Nurture, yeah, we got to find something. Our lease is up. We're probably, it expires in 5 months. Okay, so we're nurturing it along, but we're moving a little bit quicker. Hot, yeah, my lease is up in 90 days. I really got to find something. All right, let's win them over. I'm cultivating that relationship because I know that they have to buy. Right? So that's just some definition behind what these are. Just again, consistency for you. And then you create that opportunity. Now, I want to pause here because I saw there's a question, and I'm not sure if I have somebody monitoring chat with me today. Patricia asked, when creating opportunities, can you explain the box of lead versus sales? So I'm not, you're talking about on the actual display board? Patricia? Oh, so the green, so lead versus contact?
I was confusing. I know we're talking about opportunities, but I wanted to ask about, I think you must have discussed this on Monday. When you're creating a contact, there was two boxes there, lead versus sales opportunity. And you discussed it a little bit yesterday, and I can't remember what.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you for bringing us back to that. Yes, so lead, it's lead versus contact, right? And it says make a lead. And it's actually asking you two different questions. And I will show you specifically what Patricia is asking about. I'm going to open up a contact record. Great question. All right, I just kind of opened somebody up here. So right here is what she's asking on the contact. It says, mark as lead and add to sales pipeline. They're asking you two different questions in this section. One, are they a lead? So are they a lead or are they a contact is what this is saying. A lead is somebody I've had a one-way conversation with. Maybe I got their information at an open house, but we truly haven't talked yet, right? So I might mark them as a lead, or somebody registered on my website. It's basically a one-way conversation. The moment I have a two-way conversation or cultivate that relationship, they're a contact and no longer a lead because they know who I am and what I can do for them. Add the sales pipeline means if I met them at an open house, but we actually had a substantive conversation and I know that they're ready to buy and they've agreed to work with me, which happens, then if I click this add to sales pipeline, essentially what happens, it'll open up an opportunity window for me to create the opportunity.
David, can I add something? This is Fred. Lead is counterintuitive. When you mark somebody a lead, it shuts off some of the functions. It won't transfer to your other personal phone app. So then to make them a contact, you have to unmark lead, take it off.
I'm not exactly sure the question you're asking there.
Well, if you mark something as a lead, it doesn't add capability, it takes capability away. It means when you transfer, when you look on your cell phone app, the leads won't show up.
So you're talking about inside of Kelly?
Yeah.
So you can filter by contacts or leads, and there should be opportunity.
No, the leads will not transfer to Kelly.
Okay, I'd have to look at that specifically. I believe you, but
what I'm saying is that the leads take away some of the function of the system that they've got.
I don't think that to be true. I think Kelly itself is not doing what we want it to do at all times now. So remember, we talked about on day one is that Kelly at this point really is a notifications pager for you. It doesn't have all the functionalities of a Command Mobile app, and they're rebuilding the Command Mobile app. So I choose carefully about what we're saying and how we're explaining this. I don't disagree with you what you're saying, but what I told you on day one, if you recall, that I encourage you to do is go to your phone, go to your Chrome, right, and log into Command, like your Command dashboard, and save that to your homepage, and you will have full functionality.
Well, that's a good hint. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But going back, David, for a second, you seem to be saying we should mark someone as lead if they're not very promising, if it doesn't seem like much of an opportunity.
I didn't say very promising. I just said somebody that you have contact information for, but you don't have a relationship with yet.
Okay.
right? There's a difference between, and in its most fundamental systems, right? You can think of Mets and have not Mets, right? We talked about that for years in KW.
Yeah.
Mets are contacts, have not Mets are leads, but you might have their contact information, right? It could have
Right.
come from a web lead. It could have cut, like Andy, I could have made a referral to you, but you haven't talked to them yet. Or I could say, hey, go talk to Sean. Here's your contact information. They're a lead. You haven't talked to them yet. So
Right.
they're still not met. The moment you have a conversation with them and you connect with them, they're now a contact.
So then we should unmark the lead if we're a contact?
Yes.
Okay, and then when again do we add them to the sales pipeline?
Whenever you have a substantive conversation to add them to cultivate.
Got it. Okay.
So it doesn't matter if it's a buyer or a seller, because I think I've been doing it wrong too. I had a lot of my opportunities as lead, but not necessarily is because I haven't talked to them. They're my contacts and I actually know them, but I have them as leads.
You're just defining lead differently. And again, a lot of things that I'm sharing, there's no right or wrong. There's consistency. So I explain you a way that I perceive it to work, that I've seen it work best. But if you're doing the same thing, that you're thinking of a lead is like, okay, this person wants to buy, so they're a lead. And here we're saying, well, they're not met theoretically. So your person that's looking to buy is now a contact because you have a connection with them. And they're now probably an opportunity because you've had substantive conversations around doing business.
But I have opportunities on the leads as well. I created opportunities on my leads.
Right. And I'm not saying that you can't, right? I'm just saying this, you're utilizing a little bit differently and you're interpreting it differently. And that's not wrong. That's the way you've chosen to go with it.
I chose that way because I was not sure. But now that you're saying it different, I'm going to do it like you say, because, you know, but like I said, so once you have them, if you don't have them as lead, you put them as seller. I don't see the option anymore on your screen, but it's seller, seller what? Even though it could be a buyer or a seller, it doesn't matter. It goes on your seller's pipeline, you said, right?
Right. Well, when you create the opportunity, you're going to say, are they listing or are they buying? Now, that brings up a good point. What if they're doing both?
I'm sorry?
I said, you bring up a good point. Like when you're creating the opportunity, you will then define, are they selling or are they buying, right? Just because they're in our contacts database, right? We may have tagged them one or the other, or maybe both, right? That's the initial insight. So, but when you create the opportunity, you're defining their role. Are they listing or are they buying, right? Now you have one contact and an opportunity, but one contact can have multiple opportunities. Right? If they're listing and buying, they need two opportunities. There's an opportunity for each transaction that they do with me. The opportunity does not represent if they're listing and buying, right? Because those are two different deals.
Right.
So you have to have, if they're doing both, one contact would have two separate opportunities and you would have to create two.
Okay. And can you create a smart plan from the opportunity?
Not yet.
No.
Right. Smart plans are a little bit differently. We use checklists right now, but smart plans and opportunities essentially will start triggering together because it makes sense to do that. So right now we're going to get into checklists. We'll talk about that. But where one of your checklist items might be add them to smart plan, right? Mm-hmm. Add them to my biweekly neighborhood nurture. There's no triggers and opportunities right now. It will at some point in time. I don't give dates because I don't know. But yes, there is a intuitive nature that would make sense to have smart plans tied to some of these checklistable items in the opportunities.
David, sorry. I mean, like you just talked with that, my colleagues, the lady, you said like one and we have like two opportunities. I'm just gonna make sure you said different, like we need a separate. This is like kind of like dual agency, am I right?
No.
Like two opportunity, like
No,
listing and
that's
buyer
not,
or no?
No, that's not dual agency. Dual agency is that I'm representing them both sides of the transaction, right? I represent the buyer and the seller. And right, I'm listing Sean's house for sale, but Amelia is buying it. I represent her on the sale of Sean's house. That's dual agency. Okay. In this this contact, Sean, he's selling his house and he's buying another house. Those are two separate transactions, and I represent Sean in both transactions. two different opportunities.
Thank you.
Sure. I know that's a little bit confusing, especially for those of you that are new to the business. I definitely recommend that you get a lot of clarity around defining those representations through your PC or your broker. All right, let's take a look at a couple of things I want to show you in here. So in the upper right-hand side, we have the settings wheel. That settings wheel will bring us to our client update inside of settings. And I told you at the end of the day, or any point in time in the day, once you have checklists in place that you check off that you did things for your clients, an email will go out saying, hey, I did these for you today. Well, you have to tell the system when to send those emails, right? And your marketing profile has to be complete and your email has to be set up. We covered all that previously. So you set a time. I have mine set for 7 o'clock at night. Then an email goes out from me, okay? And you'll see the bottom says default because there's only one email right now. That leads me to believe in time there'll be some customization or different email settings I can choose from. Right now it's just one. But if I preview that email, this is what they would receive. They would receive all this branded information, which is tied back to me. An email saying, and now you cannot customize the script, just so you know, that for your listing at 4507 Historic Lane, here's the things that I did for you today. And that might read, ordered sign up, might read, called photographer, scheduled videography, whatever that may be. All right. This is going to continue to enhance and we'll start to pull dates in and things like that. And this picture is important. Will not be a generic picture because your listings automatically pull from the MLS into our system. The very first listing picture that's in the MLS will show up here. Can't change it. That's how it works. If you're representing a buyer and you have not yet identified a property or linked a property to the transaction, which early stages you will have not, then there will just be no picture here, just be a nice framed in checklist. If I represent the buyer and I've written a contract that's ratified and I've attached that listing to the property, okay, then that picture will show up here, which is very, very cool. So this is the email that will go out at 7 o'clock at night if client update steps were completed. Now, I haven't showed you how to build those yet, but I just want you to know this is something that you want to configure inside of your system. Now, these are not automatic, okay? They have to be turned on at each opportunity. So don't get concerned that things are going out that you don't know who they're going out to or when. So let me jump back to opportunities here. And I'm going to go ahead and I created a listing opportunity. So I now see that here, right? I see one for 725 under this cultivate stage. You'll see this was beta test and you'll see that I can move that tile back and forth. Like I just met them, but maybe I had a conversation. Okay, I recognize now that, yep, their lease is up. I need to buy in 3 months. Okay. Then I meet with them or I schedule an appointment. Then I can drag that up to the appointment stage. Okay. So then that shows up here. Then, all right, I scheduled the appointment. I had the listing consultation. Okay. They agreed to work with me and they signed docs. So we're now active. Right. So then I got to do things. Do you see how easy it is to drag and move things across? And then you see here at the top, there's these percentages. Those are those probability percentages that are built into the system for you as defaults, but you can edit those. I'm going to show you where here in a second. But did you guys see how easy that was to kind of be dragging everything across? Now I want to show you, as I move these tiles across, you'll see 0 out of 0, or 0 out of 5, or 0 out of 8. That means at this stage of the phase, there are checklistable items that I have added to my system, okay, that I need to do to move them on to the next stage. Now, you have to build these yourselves. There's no default checklists inside the system. Okay, that's something that I am encouraging KWRI to build or have some sort of a shared library like we do Smart Plans for people to import those things. But right now that just doesn't exist. So because everybody does them a little bit differently, you do have to build them yourselves. And I will post a list inside of the Facebook group, and your Market Center PC coaches probably have this too, that there is a spreadsheet that says, here's some example stages and here's example checklists that you can utilize to build into your platform. So let's take a look here. So I am in the active. I'm going to go back to, I don't have one there. Let me just drag one back. I'm going to grab beta here. And I'm going to put her in the cultivate section. Where'd you go? Sometimes if you drop them too quick, they don't go where we want them. There we go. It was there a second ago, right? Oh, there we go. I dropped it. They moved here. All right. So if I open these up, and you'll see that I got them on a watch under 12. At the top right, I have this edit stages. Okay. If I click on edit stages, I'll see the stages that are underneath that phase. And I know this can get a little bit confusing. I try to, but it's important that you think of these as basically like Russian nesting dolls. Phases are the larger dolls, and then underneath each stage are smaller dolls that we call stages. And then the smaller dolls are the checklists that are inside of them. So if you think of it layered that way, it might make a little bit more sense of how you're structuring your business. But each stage under the phase, you see those here. And then each of those stages has the ability to have checklists associated with them, which unless you've built them, we'll see 0 out of 0. There's a pencil next here that you can edit. Okay, so I can edit the stage, or I can go into checklist and add an item. So if I just met, maybe I want to, maybe my sub would be, let's think, activate. Save. Or it might be set up a saved search. And maybe that's an update. So there's see a client update is there. So I've said, hey, make this a client update item. And that's checked. So what that means is this is the master list. So that every time I have a client and I check off inside of their opportunity that I did this for them, it knows that it's an updatable item that it should send them an email at that 7 o'clock time frame that I did this for them today. Right? You can always edit these checklists. You can rename things. And if you're on a team, then you can actually assign people to do different elements. It might be your TC person, it might be your admin, it might be another agent, or the Rainmaker might be assigning people to the, so there's different elements, but there's structure inside of teams that you will see multiple people. As an individual agent, that doesn't exist for me here. But teams, you will see that functionality.
So David?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you create these checklists, though, they are master checklists, right? So even if you put, client A, B, and C underneath watch and cultivate, and you've got those checklist items, those are going to populate for each of those clients. You don't have to go in there and specifically set them up for each individual. Does that make sense?
That is correct.
Okay.
So when I come back out here, so this is your master list. That's correct. So every time I create a new opportunity and they put them under those certain stage or that certain phase, that checklist will exist. You don't have to create it the one time. However, what you can do, okay, if I go into the actual opportunity itself where this checklist here is at the bottom, I'll see that list, but I can also add an item here. So maybe there's a one-off item that I need to do for this particular client, for this transaction. When I add that one-off item, it's specific to this opportunity and does not change the master list. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I confess, David, I'm having a hard time seeing how this would be useful unless somebody has a dozen active listings at one time. I mean, I think it would be easier just to email or call the person and say, I did this.
So that's one nuance, right? You have a checklist. There are things that you should be doing. Not everything updates the client, right? And as you get further into the opportunity, now I'm just talking about in the active stage, but in the cultivate stage. So there are less things at the cultivate stage that you do for somebody than there are under active or under contract, right? At active or under contract, there are more things that happen. Now, Andy brings up a good point. All right, well, I can manage this. I have one deal. Well, the whole purpose of this is so to hope that you have more than one deal, right? And if you wait to build these things till you have multiple transactions, then you're too busy to build them. So if you build the checklist now and you're consistent in what you do and checking off and tracking things, that when you have multiple transactions or multiple opportunities in play, you're not missing things.
This seems like it has a lot of potential to create embarrassment by sending what's obviously an automated email that turns out to be inaccurate for one particular client or listing.
Well, I think you have to control your business, right? We can talk semantics all day long. I'm just telling you this is a valuable tool that's there for you to utilize. Hey, I do embarrassing things all the time. I accidentally post things in the chat, or I send email to the wrong person, or I say the wrong thing to the wrong person in an email. We all do those things.
It doesn't automatically do it unless you check that client update.
That's correct. And even if I mark it as a client update item, okay, I actually have to turn it on for the specific opportunity. Now look, we're at 10:52, so I'm going to ask at this point, we hold questions until the very end so I can kind of get through everything, okay? So let me just kind of go into the details of the opportunity. So I'm showing you the tile boards and how things move around, right? If I click on view details, I see all the elements that I built out the opportunity originally. Address, time frame, and things that should be updated as I'm moving the transaction further and further along. So I can hit this pencil. Now, at the top of this page, there's a client updates element. If I click client updates, I actually physically have to go in and turn the client update on for this purpose transaction. So Andy, to your question, like, will things accidentally go out? Possibly, if you turned it on, right, and you weren't specific about checking things off. Nothing gets sent out unless I turn it on and I check box next to the checklist that I did something on their behalf. So nothing happens accidentally. You actually have to be pretty intentional from building your checklist to identifying what are client updated about items, turning on the client update at the details portion for that opportunity, and then checking off that I actually did something. So there's a lot of stop gaps in there that would have to happen before anything gets sent out. So, but you do have to turn these on. And I think they got missed for a lot of people where people ask me, hey, my updates aren't going out. It's because they didn't turn it on at the opportunity level. And at this time, there is not a default, and I think for a good reason, that they're automatically on for all opportunities. They want you to be intentional about turning it on at the opportunity level, even though you may build out your checklist and identified those client opportunities. All right, so on the right-hand side here, you see lost opportunity. There's lost opportunity and there's archive opportunity. They mean two different things. So when you create an opportunity, right, you had a substantive conversation. So you determine that this person now warrants me building an opportunity for them. It's early on, that's okay, but we're talking. But then at some point in time in the process, before they're active or under contract with me, I get a phone call from them. Dave, it's been great meeting you. You've been awesome. However, my cousin Billy just got his license and I'm going to have him represent me going forward in this transaction. You have lost the opportunity. They're no longer going to work with you. So that means you lost the opportunity to close on a transaction. You don't want to archive it. You don't want to make it go away. Again, the opportunity police aren't going to come say anything to you. This is you being true to your numbers. What percentages, we talked about those percentages of closings and how they move along are determined by how honest you are to yourself and your business. Now, if you go in and you create an opportunity today, as you should, as a test, so you can practice, so you can move things around, then you can archive those and delete them and they don't affect your numbers. But if you add an opportunity for somebody and they just don't work with you, then you should mark it as a lost opportunity.
Can you delete
it? Really, really important.
Can you delete it?
I'm sorry?
Can you delete it?
That's what we were just saying. You can archive and delete, or you can mark it as a lost opportunity.
Okay, but the contacts you cannot delete, because I tried to do that and it didn't give me the option.
All right, let's hold the questions at the end. Contacts and opportunities are different. You can delete a contact and you can delete an opportunity. They're separate of each other. So we'll come back to that. All right. So this is also where you see select listings at the top. If you have an active listing, you put it in the MLS, it will pull to the MLS. So you can connect your listing here. If you're representing a buyer and you ratify a contract, you should also connect the listing here. All right. Seller profile, if I walk across here, is where if they were utilizing, we'll talk a little bit more of this in consumer on Monday, if they're using your buyer and seller guides through your consumer app and website. Documents is where your lovely brokers will want to see all of your contracts that you've created once you've gone active for somebody. Buyer broker agreements, listing contracts, that all sync in from DocuSign. Those all go here. Offers and commissions are once you are ratified, okay, or you create an offer. And this is important too. Again, when Gary launched this platform, he said, hey, there's going to be a lot of input, right? Because data is valuable to you all in your business. Every time, and I encourage you, again, nobody's going to know if you do or you don't. Every time you make an offer or receive an offer, you should click add an offer and put it in the system. Okay. You'll walk through, you give it the appropriate information. It will sync when you put the address in. When I connected it to a listing, it will automatically, if this was me representing a buyer, I know this is listing, but if it was me representing a buyer and I select the listing, it'll actually pull the listing agent's information in here for you, right? There's value in that. And then you would actually go to terms. Oh, I got to put somebody in here. Just making up bogus info. Then it'll ask you around the terms about the transaction. You have to start on the left. You can't start writing price. Right, so if it's cash and I have earnest money of 100,000, right, zero finance amount, or actually, if it was all cash, then I would put 700,000. If it was cash and finance, then I would put, then 550 finance amount in here, and then it'll subtotal across. Earnest money deposit, I can go percentages or points. I'm sorry, right? I can put that in there. We don't have option fees in Virginia. But remember, this is built for a national platform, not just ours. Termination option, when's that last contingency expire, right? Financial contingency is usually 21 days, unless it's been waived, right? Or if it's cash. Or a home inspection contingency is 10 days. I always use the most furthest out option to cancel the contract in this spot. Closing costs. Are people getting sellers' contributions right now? Not really. So be careful what you ask for here. Pros and cons of the deal. Pro. What are the terms of the deal? Right? Cons. What you're doing here is you're making notes around the offer, okay, that you essentially would be presenting to your client. Then when you check them, if you have multiples, which happens on a listing situation, I can create this compare offers button that generates basically a spreadsheet. Now, I don't know how many of you have been in the business a long time. I once had a deal where I had 27 offers. I had to create an Excel spreadsheet that itemized all the information about each transaction. I wish I had this. Right? This will itemize all that information so that I can download or email it to my consumer to kind of show them all the deals that we had going on. Now, this works great for listings. And I think people miss the chance to understand or work with their buyers and such in the same way, because we've all worked with buyers and written multiple offers for buyers, and we just kind of forget them. I encourage you to track the offers that you're writing for your buyers, because buyers don't always heed our information. They know better a lot of times, right? So inside of here, you could track, okay, Joe, we wrote offer 1. You were heavily financed. You only put 5% down and you asked for seller closing costs and you were 60 days out. Offer 2, you were asking for seller's closing costs, but you were closing inside of 30 days. But neither of these deals did you over offer the transaction. So if you can document this data and generate a spreadsheet and show it to your buyers, and then kind of go back and say, and here's where those transactions failed because they went 10,000 over, they went 15,000 over, they waived these contingencies. Now, I'm not telling you to encourage what your clients do because it's their decision. I'm telling you to track the data so that when you go back and you talk to your clients, you have documented information. So that's the value here for tracking listings and buyers. But I do encourage you to not just put in the accepted offer, but to put in all offers to track what it took to get a deal closed. And then once you actually accept an offer, okay, like I have here, is when you actually get to put in the commission for the transaction, right? This is your green sheet. This is not this class, but without an accepted offer, you can't submit a green sheet. That's just kind of the stopgap. So you have to put in at least one offer that's been accepted in the system for the opportunity to turn on this commission. Now look, we're running a little bit long, but I think you guys are getting great information. That is everything inside the opportunity for the most part. Now you also have this guided tour, right, which is great, that you can use. You can look up opportunities on answers.kw.com. I saw that Ted shared some links inside of chat. If you're on a team, that's where this discussion comes into play. If you have transaction coordinator, ops manager, agent, frame maker, you guys can be talking around the different transactions in chat through here. That tracks everything. I do recommend that you create test opportunities. This is where you actually archive. Sorry, I forgot to show this earlier because they're lost in an archive or not next to each other. You actually have to go to the 3 dots and archive the opportunity here. You can always restore an archived opportunity. Okay. You can always change a lost opportunity to concurrent to active again. So you have those opportunities that they aren't really gone. Let me just go back into the details for this one because there's one other thing I want to show. No, okay, I guess that is everything I wanted to say. Oh no, I'm wrong. I lied. We'll cover this at a later date, but the first time you going to create that opportunity to write contracts, I want you to do it through here to start a transaction because that will connect to DocuSign for you. If you go directly to DocuSign.com and create a room, it won't sync back to the opportunity. You'll have to upload documents. There's a workaround where you can go to realestate.docusign.com. We'll cover that in the DocuSign class. But here, the first time you create a transaction to connect, that will sync the rooms together so you can move documents back and forth. And then once I've done that, I'll actually have an update transaction button here if I added new details about the transaction on here. You got a lot thrown at you guys today. So I'm going to stick on. I'm going to answer questions. I appreciate you guys waiting patiently and holding those questions to the end.
David?
Yes, go ahead.
On the sales pipeline buyer under contract where you have the offers and commissions, you're on your beta test listing page right there. You don't go off of it.
Oh.
So just like under contract, go to your under contract where you're able to compare the contracts that have been written. I don't see that comparison button on my.
You have to have more than one offer.
I do.
So when you go to your details, this is referral, under offers and commissions, you have 2 offers here. And did you check them?
It doesn't give me an opportunity to check them.
Well, maybe they haven't turned off the moment they're working something in the back end.
Okay. I just wanted.
No, that's it's a good question because sometimes when I'm training, I have access to things that aren't fully integrated or rolled out, or might be turned off at the moment because I'm labbing a lot of this. So thank you for sharing that with me because I wasn't aware that was turned off on the back end.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll keep on looking for it because I do have a situation like that I would like to be able to present all the offers that we've written in the comments that I put there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem. Who else has a question?
Yes, I do. And the same question. So you are saying if we present an offer and then we didn't get the house, we need to present another offer to another house. Do we have to create 2 different offers or we have to void the first one and present? I don't quite understand that.
It's a good question. So difference between offer and opportunity. One opportunity can have multiple offers in it. You don't create a new opportunity for every contract that you write. You do add additional offers because I think it's important for you to track the ones that failed.
Right.
It's one opportunity that you might write multiple offers around. till you get one ratified. But you should add the offer tracking information for each offer that you write. And then you literally can say accepted or rejected, right? This one happens to be accepted because I confirmed it in the system. But if it was rejected, then stamp it rejected. Because that's how, again, you're going to be able to track your information.
Got you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good questions. Any other questions floating
I
around?
have to tell you, thank you so much for a fantastic training. To be honest, I am panicking about technology. To me, I just panic. I just freeze and start crying. And I was scared about command. And I start taking the trainings slowly. And the more I take, I love it. I love it. And I think it's gonna make me very successful using these tools. I wanna thank you so much.
Oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you. And you're learning a lot in a very short period of time through this, right? And I told you on day one, I hate the word technology, right? So think of it as leverage. I think just that word just terrifies people. I do not, and your market centers do not expect you to learn all this, even though you're learning it all over an 8-day period. Give yourself time. Give yourself time to figure this out. Start with the basics, start with context. Yeah, there are things you need to do when you start writing contracts. Lean on the people in your market center. Lean on your market center tech trainer. Lean on your PC coach, right? We are all here to help you build your business. You're not on an island and you are not alone.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, David.
Absolutely. So if there are no other questions, you are all free to go.
David, sorry, one quick question.
Yeah.
I'm Monday and Tuesday's class. Where can I see the recordings?
So I will post them in the Facebook group, and they're on our YouTube channel. So
Okay.
if I just I'll bring it up on screen here. And then thanks for asking, because I always forget to remind people that they are there. So we have a Facebook group for the region, kw.va.wva.tech. And I always post them here. And we have a regional, I don't have it up right now, YouTube channel. So let me just do this. And if you search on YouTube for Region 12, there we go, you'll find our page. And if you subscribe to the page, every time I post an updated training video, you'll get notified.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
David, could you please go back to the last link for the KW Virginia? Not this, yes.
Ted's throwing them in chat. Ted, would you share the Facebook page too for me, buddy? He put the in chat is the YouTube link, and then Ted will have the Facebook link there in just a second. So you guys can just copy it and run with it. There you go.
This is for the Facebook, for the YouTube as well?
Yeah, they're both in chat now. One says YouTube, one says Facebook. And I encourage you to do them. They're two different things. I post the information on both. The YouTube channels, obviously all the recorded trainings are there. The Facebook group is great because it's a place where you can go and we support each other. Market Center Tech Trainers are on that channel. I'm on that channel. Other agents are on that channel. So if you ask questions, people will chime in to help you. There's strength in numbers for our region, right? And you're not isolated to a market center, right? That you can come out here and ask a question to anybody in the region, and anybody knows the answer will be there to either provide you a direct answer or their spin on how they may utilize something. That's the great thing about Command, is that there's a lot of customization, and how you choose to use it may vary. There's fundamental elements in it, but how you apply it to your business and what levers you pull, it changes from person to person.
Thank you so much.
So you guys all have a wonderful day. Remember, there's no training tomorrow. We don't do trainings on Fridays, right? So get ready for your weekends. I hope you all have open houses scheduled, right? I hope you have clients to go show. You keep the grind up. It's important. Monday, we'll be kicking off again for week 2 of the training. We're going to start in consumer. So in consumer, we're going to talk about websites. We're going to talk about your mobile app. So each day we talk about things that you need to do. So for websites, really, really important that you have your marketing profiles built out, headshots, brokerage information, logos for your brokerage, right? If you don't know where to get these things, who do you ask? Ted, who do they ask?
The coach.
Their coach?
My space bar is not working. MCTT?
Their MCTT or their coach. If you have a PC coach, and I say that because not every market center has one. Ask your PC coach, ask your team leader, right? Ask your market center tech trainer, because every market center does have one of those, except for Kingstown. But they can get you that information. If you don't have like the logo, they can share where to get those things. You can find those on Connect, but not every. Anyways, you check with those. But on Monday, you're going to want to make sure your marketing profile is complete. And if you haven't done that, you can go back and each of the sessions. I think both on Monday and Wednesday, I went over more Wednesday. I think I went into more of a deep detail on the marketing profile so that when you activate your website on Monday, you're ready to go.
And you also said that in the YouTube, you're recording since session 1, right?
Oh yeah, all 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I've been getting them loaded by mid-afternoon. So this should be up sometime later today, but Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, you'll see them on the YouTube page. They're there.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
And they're broken down. You'll see them as most recently updated or by playlist. So what I do to help organize things, I have playlists, right? So each topic has its own playlist. There's command setup, there's command contacts, there's command smart plans, there's command opportunities, context, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That way, each time we put trainings in, and sometimes I'll do a snippet of training of something that's new, I'll add it to that playlist.
David, I have 2 very specific questions. Is the best way to ask those maybe booking a time on your calendar to get 10 minutes to talk through those, or is this an appropriate forum?
If you think there's if it's not too specific for you, you can ask it, and because there may be value in it for everybody else.
Okay. Well, the first question is on the contacts page of the home screen, like the commands, there's 2 profiles in my drop-down box. There's the market center team and my name. So it looks like the reason I was having trouble in opportunities is because I have all my contacts under my name. Should all of those contacts been under the team name? Because when I go to put the team name in my opportunity, I can't pull up my client because that doesn't have the database.
Yeah. So for those of you that are on teams, okay, and market center teams qualify, right? Market center teams function just like a regular agent's team because there is a firewall. Your contacts, in order to leverage the team component, which is opportunities, tracking, smart plans, TC work, those contacts have to be in the team database. Okay. So you have to move them. Okay.
Is there an easy way to move them?
Yeah. So you can move them within seconds. I can move 500 at a time.
Okay.
So literally, and I'll just talk you through it, but you can test it, but test it on one first before you do them on all, but it's very, very easy. So that everybody can listen to this. So from your contact screen, if you need to move them to the team, you check one or many, and I do one first, check the box. Your bulk action will open up.
Okay.
It's top of screen. The very last element under bulk action says change account. That change account will move that contact to your team. And you will, and just this is clear, and I'm not going to go into this too deeply, but just so you know, when you're moving contacts from your personal days to the team, you are still the owner of that contact. Nobody can take that away from you. You're still the owner. So that way, if you ever leave the team, like growing out of a PC program, those contacts will come back to your personal database. Does that make sense? Did that work for you, Christina? Christina froze. All right, so we're 15 minutes. I'm going to pull the plug on today's class. I will see you all on Monday. This will be up, locked and loaded later today. And thank you for those of you that have been here every day. I know there's a handful of you. I appreciate that. It means a lot that you're taking the time out of your day to join me every day. So I will see you all smiling again on Monday. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.